In this presentation, I'm going to show you how to supercharge your ability to delegate work out effectively by using workflows. We're going to look at what a workflow is, why on earth you need workflows, why you should be using them. We'll be looking at a worked example to show you exactly how to build one from scratch. We'll talk about BPMN 2.0, that's the industry standard for business processing mapping notation 2.0. Why on earth would I talk about that in this introductory workflows? It's really important that you get this right from the start. And lastly, touch on an app called Lucidchart, and I'll give you a quick demo of using that so you can see a really affordable, scalable option that works well with remote workers and teams that you can start using immediately. And I say it's free to get you started. Okay, so what is a workflow? A workflow is a visual representation of a process or a number of processes stringed together. It's a step-by-step guide, and it shows every step involved and really importantly, every decision or option available in that process. So that even if you have a complex process that requires someone to act in a different way, depending on different scenarios or different circumstances, you can map that out. This allows you to start handing over more and more complex and larger projects to people without you ever having to get involved. For example, a new client joining your company, there's a multitude of things that need to happen when something like that gets triggered. How do you give all of the information to somebody in one go so they can go ahead and do that? The workflow is exactly how you do just that. So this is an example workflow. It's basically just any process in your business with a start and an end and a number of steps in between, and you may or may not have some decisions that affect the different options that happen. We're going to go through in a minute of how you actually build this specific workflow out. So I'm going to skip over this now and we'll come back to it in a minute. So why would you bother using one? Well, workflows allow you to break down those complex processes that I've mentioned into a standardized way that anybody can read as long as they understand how workflows work. And that's why we use industry standard. So you can give this to anyone in the world and they can then read and interpret and act on the work that's in that workflow. You can use workflows. If you use a digital workflow tool like Lucidchart, you can then link other resources. So if you've got task templates or operation manuals or instructions or videos or templates or other data resources or databases or whatever it is, you can link them all on your diagram so the person that when they get to the next step in the process and they want to know how they do it, they click on the symbol and it opens up the instructions for doing that. Really powerful stuff. And you can also link one workflow to another workflow. So when someone gets the end of one workflow, it may trigger a whole other process off. And that's cool too. You can do that. So what they allow you to do is to do all of that in a really clear and concise, readable way. If you just have a long list of tasks to be done, and maybe when you get to a decision, so if option A happens, do such a thing. If option B happens, do such a thing. Well, on a list, that's quite difficult to be represented, especially when you may have 20 or 30 decisions in a whole project, and you've got to represent them somehow on a list. It gets very, very messy and difficult to read very quickly. However, on a flow diagram, it's really easy. And I'll show you again how to build a simple one out in a moment. They're quick to create. We use them often for just dumping ideas down. So I've got an idea for a new process. I literally just put my thoughts onto a piece of paper or onto a digital piece of paper really quickly and basically then build it out later. So you can dump ideas really rapidly once you get the hang of what the symbols are. And there's only a few symbols you need to create very complex usable workflows. Lastly, they're very easy to understand. I've covered this before, but if you use an industry standard, that is, if you use the BPMN or whatever standard you choose, we use the BPMN standard. It allows anybody in the world, as I mentioned before, anyone in the world to just basically pick them up, your flow diagrams, read them and understand them because you're using an industry standard that other people know. And if you get a new employee that comes in who doesn't know how to use it, you don't have to teach them and reinvent the wheel. You just need to give them basic training in BPMN, which is available for free with the tools like Lucidchart or on YouTube. There's loads and loads of content out there. So you can basically get all that training for free. So you don't have to do it yourself. So here's a little worked example. It's the same example I showed you before. And what we're going to do is actually build this out. So I'll just explain what we're doing in this flowchart. So the idea of this process is that we are looking to find how much a property is worth in a given area, or a potential property we're going to develop. So this scenario is we're buying some land and we're going to build a house. How much am I going to be able to sell my house for? So in order to know that, I need to know how much houses in that area sell for per square foot. So I can then, or per square meter if you live in the modern world. And so once you know the price per square foot, you can then work out the potential value of a property. So that's all we're going to do, is find a list of properties that we then have the average square foot, so we can work out on average we're going to sell our property for X, Y, or Z. So this is a template that we're going to basically get our VA to fill out by going on to Rightmove and doing this search. So the outcome of the task, to find the price per square foot of a property, average price per square foot of properties. And then how we're going to do that is, well, we need two things to be able to work out how much price per square foot of a property is. We need to know the property price and then how big the property is. Divide the two together, and then you've got the answer that you need. So where do we get this information from? And if you're not in property, it doesn't matter. This example is just showing you how to build up any basic workflow. The example can be applied to any process that you've got. I'm just using this one because most people understand things like Rightmove and house prices. So sold prices we find on Rightmove by searching on Rightmove. They're all listed there in the sold price section, dead easy. The area of the property, however, sometimes that's included also on Rightmove. So it's dead easy. You've got both bits of information you need. You can just crack on. However, sometimes you need to go and search elsewhere to get the area. So the EPC register, the Energy Performance Certificate register, that has all the areas, the size of all properties ever sold, because by law you have to actually do that. And so you can find any properties area by going onto the EPC register, as long as it's been sold recently. But to find the property on there, you need the postcode, and therefore you've got to backwards engineer it. You've got to reverse engineer this. So you've got to get the postcode, go to the EPC register, get the area, and then you can work out what it is, how much the property is worth per square foot. So I've just written that process out in sort of simple English, in inverted commas, just to try to explain the different elements of a flow diagram. So first of all, we're looking at activities. So the steps involved, if you like. So the blue highlighted words are the action steps. So search Rightmove. If no area, check EPC. If no postcode, then find it on Royal Mail. Those are the actions, the doing steps in that process. So we represent those with a box on a flowchart. Next, decisions, or gateways as they're called in the standardized formatting. So search Rightmove. There's no decision that needs to be made there. But if there's no area, then search EPC. If there's no postcode, then find it on Rightmove. So now we've got a couple of decisions with an option yes or no that basically will then determine what the next step in the process is. So basically we've broken it down. So we've got 3 activities and 2 gateways or decisions that we need to map out into our flowchart. So here is the flowchart. So we have a start point. The next thing is we do some things, the action, search Rightmove. We then have a question to ask, a decision. Has the property got an area? If it has, that's us done, because we've got the sold price and then we've got the property area. So therefore we've got all the information we need. We can then figure out the price per square foot and we're done for that property, move on to the next property. However, if we haven't got the area, then we need to then find it. So the next question is, do we have the postcode? Because we need the postcode to search on the EPC register. So no, so therefore we'll have to go to the Royal Mail website, get the postcode, and then we ask ourselves the same question. In theory, you don't actually obviously have to ask yourself the same question, it's just how you represent it on the flow diagram. Now, have we got the postcode? Well, yes. So now we go back, we can find that area on the EPC register, and therefore the property has an area. Yes, it's got an area. So therefore we have the area of the property and because we did the search on the right move originally, the price of the property. So therefore, we've got all the information we need, and therefore we've finished and we can exit and move on to the next property. So that is basically mapping out that. It's a relatively simple process, but it's just showing you how to simply map out a simple process using a standardized format for your flowchart. So BPMN 2.0 is one of the industry standards for mapping out your flow diagrams. And I've mentioned a few reasons why you should think about using it. It can make things look quite complex to begin with. And this put me off using it. So I actually started by using more like the symbols you've just seen on the previous page. They're almost identical. And actually Lucidchart, I'll show you in a second, gives you the option to use basic flowchart or BPMN. I encourage you to use BPMN from the beginning, even if you don't use any of the advanced features or any of the more deep, in-depth functionality of the actual tool itself, because the symbols are pretty much the same. So it doesn't actually, it's no more difficult to learn from the beginning. But what it gives you is a industry standard, as I said, so that other people in the industry will be able to read these for you, and you can use other people's training to teach people how to actually do this for you in the future. But also it means that when you do want to create more in-depth, complex, informative flowcharts, you're already using the symbols which allow you to do that. And there's a lot more complexity, there's the ability to have a lot more complexity in diagrams using BPMN over a standardized flow diagram. Although from a starting point of view, they're just as easy to actually create, just as easy to use in a simple form, but this gives you much more depth when you need it. I've had to go back through, we're in the process now of undoing all the original flowcharts we did and converted them all to BPMN. Avoid that by just starting with this from the beginning, even if you don't take advantage of all the advanced techniques. So next, I'm just going to quickly show you Lucidchart. So I'll jump to that in a second. And just to show you how simple it is to use and to map out a process. Lucidchart is totally free. You can use about 60 elements on a page for free. You're limited to the number of documents you can have as well in the free, but it gives you the BPMN symbols for free as well. So you can have a go, map it out, have a little play around with stuff, learn how it works. And then if you want to then pay for a pro version, it's only about £4 or £5 a month or something like that. Then you get access to everything. There's also, what I love about Lucidchart is there's team version. So when you start scaling your business and you've mapped out lots of your business process, you can then add users at different levels. So you can have an admin user, for example, who can access but they can't edit, or you can determine who can do what with your charts. And they can also get involved and be involved in actually creating your Lucidcharts for you as well, or your flow diagrams as well for you. So I always look for software is there a free version I can give it a good testing before I actually commit? Not a 2-week trial. I want as long as I want to make sure that this is what I want before I actually go with it. So is there a decent free version or a very low cost option? Is there a low cost subscription option which gives me the functionality that I need to be able to use this in the medium term? And lastly, is there a scalable option with the ability to add users with different permissions? Because that is essential when you start growing your team. And within 18 months, we've gone from one VA that I used to have, pretty much zero actually, from zero to now having 12 staff. So we have a team with different levels of management and we need this. So very quickly you'll get into a situation where you may need to actually have different users. So don't go down one route with one piece of software only to find it's not suitable for your business as your business needs scale. Because otherwise you're going to have to undo everything and move over to an app that is suitable. So that's why we like Lucidchart. Okay, so I'll just fire up Lucidchart and I'll show you how it works. Okay, so this is Lucidchart. This is a new document, a blank diagram that I've created just to show you. So when you start with Lucidchart and you create a new diagram, you're offered immediately these flowchart symbols here and these shapes. I would recommend that when you're creating a flowchart, you immediately get rid of both of those options. What you don't want to do is start using half of one symbol set and half of another symbol set. So get rid of the ones that you're not going to use, so the standard ones, and instead use the BPMN ones from the beginning. I did that, by just clicking plus shapes and then coming over to the BPMN and ticking that box there. Close this down, and you can see now I've got my symbols here. They're almost the same as the flow ones, but these are what are known as BPMN. So what I'm going to do now is just start mapping out that process that you saw, that I showed you in the presentation. So we've got a start event. So this is when the start of the thing. So we're going to call this start process. You can be as you can be as creative as you want with your names. Obviously, this is just a demo. I then want to add the first task, and that was to search on Rightmove. So I click next to it where the little red dot is, and select the next the next step, which is going to be a step or a activity, and this is going to be search Rightmove. And then this is just mapping out the processes. It's not teaching somebody how to do the individual steps. That's on a linked document. So I can actually link onto here. So I can create this as a clickable link. So I click on the symbol, highlight it, click on my actions, external link, and then I can put any link I want in here. So for example, I could link this to a operational manual for doing this step. So I just basically paste the link in here, and now I can then click on this and it automatically opens up. There's the Rightmove Sold Price Research Operation Manual. And so, and there's a link to this diagram, because I've actually done this before. And this is the step-by-step guide for actually completing that task. So now I'm going to add the next step, which was a decision, or in this case, it's called a gateway. And that's going to be, is there an area? Or property has area, I think I called it in my other one. And then you'd have another step. So you'd have search for area. I can't spell. There we go. And then you'd have this as being no. So it hasn't got an area. Therefore, you're going to search for the area. And this arm is going to be yes, you have got an area. So you do something else. So this is going to be add to template, for example. So this is just showing you really how simple it is to create a flow diagram using Lucidchart. I've got other videos which cover this in far more detail to show you how to properly map things out, and we'll cover that in a separate section. I just wanted to really touch on it to show you how easy it is to so you can actually get started and actually have a go at doing this today. So I hope that's been helpful. So yeah, good luck. This using flowcharts is an absolute game changer with regards to be able to outsource your work effectively. At this point in the Systems Processing program, this is the module where people often say, that's the light bulb moment, if you like. This is the game changer. This is when it all makes sense. Suddenly it's all coming together, because now I understand how I'm going to actually map out my whole business and actually delegate the vast majority of my work out. Workflows using something like Lucidchart is the way you do that to truly supercharge your ability to delegate work out. So best of luck. I'm very interested to let me know how you get on with this. I'm really interested to hear your stories. Thanks very much.